So some relatively good news out of the state legislature. Some of the worst bills are dead, at least for now. In theory, they can come back in the next legislative session, and in theory, perhaps they could even come back at the end of this one, which is coming to a close. But it would at least appear that the initiative killer bill is done. The "we're going to throw you in jail for the rest of your life if you don't pay your car tabs" is done. Joining me on the line is someone who I think set a record as to how many times he's been escorted out of a committee hearing, is our friend Tim Eyman. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks. What a record to break.
Right? How many times have you been escorted out or threatened to be escorted out this session?
This session, it's been 3 times. Last year it was over the parents' rights bill, but this time it was mostly over the Democrats' income tax.
How awkward is that when it happens?
After 29 years of doing this stuff, I've got a dinosaur skin. I mean, none of it bothers me in the least, but it does bother the Democrats tremendously. I mean, and that is half the battle when you're an activist down there and you're just knowing that you're throwing rocks at a speeding train and you're trying to get their attention. Well, piss them off at least, at least accomplish that. And just speaking does seem to bother them tremendously, and criticism, heaven forbid that they hear that. It does stand out a little bit. Everybody else kind of uses this monotone voice. I respectfully disagree with the bill. I am a bit more direct than that.
Yeah, I have no respect for this bill. It's absolutely absurd. It is a travesty of a piece of legislation. What did we learn, if anything, in the successes of stopping the initiative killer and the car tab fee bill? All of that?
Well, it's all about teamwork. I mean, I was just really amazed. I mean, obviously, superstar Brian Haywood came to both hearings and, he made time for those. You had the 2 secretaries of state. You had Sam Reed and Steve Hobbs, kind of the dynamic duo, Batman and Robin, beating up on the bill. And obviously, you had tons of citizens signing in con on the bill. And so it's just a full court press. And, it kind of fell under its weight because it was so illogical.
Why do you think, though, that same general strategy hasn't been as effective, at least not yet, when it comes to the income tax?
I think it is. It actually is working on the income tax. I mean, everybody is involved. You got regular grassroots people. You got the business community all fired up.
There's a lot of folks who have stepped up, just regular voters signing into the con on this in record numbers, business leaders who are Democrats who are stepping up. But given the fact that they've added this contingency clause into it, making it so that we can't offer a referendum to get rid of it, where do things stand?
Honestly, that's a favor to us. Referendums are hopelessly complicated. They're not a good thing. You want to do an initiative, and I think that that's actually a blessing that they've done that. I mean, obviously, we still beat them up for it. But at the end of the day, initiatives are clear, easier to understand, and a more positive thing. And what are we all doing? We're all praying that Brian Haywood is pissed off enough about this particular bill that he's willing to add this to the initiative portfolio that he's quickly building. He's made me look like a wimp. I tried to do 1 initiative a year and did that for a long time. This guy's going, Eyman's a wimp. I'm doing 6. I'm doing 2. I'm doing 5. I'm just watching him, just mesmerized by his willingness to stay in the fight. It's a great thing.
And I am grateful for that. I'm grateful for the work you did. At the same time, it's not fair to rely on you. It's not fair to rely on him. He's spending a lot of money. You spent a lot of money, a lot of time and energy. And it seems like that's a strategy that the Democrats are willing to accept, pass something that's crazy, and then spend a ton of money against a ton of money if necessary. That is an abusive strategy.
Well, and what I can't stand is the people that are saying right now, well, we've got to do a lawsuit because clearly this income tax is clearly unconstitutional. And I'm like, when was the last time the court was the white knight that came riding to the rescue at the last minute? I mean, it's pretty obvious if we don't do it ourselves, it's not going to get done. And so we live in a world where, because we don't have enough Republicans elected, the only option we have is an initiative. And again, we're all in silent prayer. I, have a candle and I picture Brian Haywood on the wall. And I pray to it every morning. Please hate the millionaire's tax enough to be able to put it on the ballot. And as he pointed out, it's not going to affect him. He can always change his domicile. He has plenty of options that are available to him. But he is doing this, I'd call it like public policy philanthropy. I mean, he's doing this for the betterment of the state, not the betterment of himself. And, what I really admire about the guy is he saw what happened to me, pure crucifixion, and said, you know what? I'm not going to let that deter me. I'm going to go even harder than Eyman ever went. And you just got to admire anybody that's willing to look at what happened to me and say, well, I'm going to take the chance anyway and do it too.
Well, given what happened to you, you're obviously in a position where I think you still owe millions of dollars to the state. How close are you to paying that off?
It's classic. I keep rechecking my checking account and savings account, and I keep looking for $8 million. And it's just not there. It's just not popping up. No, I'm very lucky that I have Richard Sanders, my attorney, and joined by the Pacific Legal Foundation. In their most recent appeal, they said, is it under the Constitution an excessive fine to impose $8 million on somebody who's had zero income for the last 4 years, doesn't have a job, doesn't have income, doesn't have any assets? Is that excessive? I would think that would be an easy question to answer, but we're living in the state of Washington where a lower court judge said, I'm fine with $8 million being imposed on Eyman.
Well, if you committed a violent crime and got jail time, they wouldn't charge you anything at all. They would give you special treatment, and they would say you shouldn't even go to jail. You should just be released on your own personal recognizance during the trial, and then ultimately you shouldn't go to jail at all. I mean, granted, you're a straight white dude, but still.
That's true. Well, and think about if I had been doing initiatives that expanded government power, if I had been raising taxes and voters going along with it, I wouldn't be getting fines. I'd be getting awards. I'd be getting subsidies. I mean, it's totally because our initiatives have lowered car tabs and limited property taxes. And yes, they're not $30. And yes, your property taxes are going up a lot, but they'd be going up a lot more if we hadn't done the initiatives we did. And so that did make me a target. 13 years of litigation, it's taken everything that I own. But the one thing they can't stop me from doing is speaking out when they're out of line. And boy, this legislative session, I've heard a million Republicans say, well, it can't be worse than last session. And now they're saying, oh no, it's dramatically worse than last session. So it's a scary time. And so we need people that are willing to speak up. And I kind of look at it as, well, what else can they do to me? Escort me out of a hearing. Oh my God, you can't have that. $8 million fines and banned from ever earning money for the rest of my life. I mean, I'm not too worried about being escorted out of a hearing after facing something like that.
And your website, by the way, is timdefense.com for anyone who wants to help out in your effort, timdefense.com. But given that you aren't working, how do you pay your bills?
Barely is the short answer to it. Yeah, the one thing that they said in the court ruling is we can't prohibit Eyman from raising money for his legal defense fund so he can defend himself. And so I have been 100% focused in trying to raise money for, thank you very much, timdefense.com, so I can pay my lawyers so I can get this overturned, because I'm 60 years old. I've been doing this for 29 years. This is my calling. This is my mission in life. And these restrictions are for the rest of my life. And my birth parents, they lived into their mid-80s. So I've got 25, 30 years of life in me. I want to make sure that I don't have this stuff hanging over my head for the rest of my life. I want to be able to continue to do what I've always done and not be restricted in what my First Amendment allows me to do.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you fall victim to the vindictive, nature of Governor Bob Ferguson. But this obviously started before he was governor. I'll give you the last word.
I was just going to say, one of the biggest motivations I have, too, is as long as I'm appealing this thing, they can't use it against somebody else. So as long as I'm fighting this thing, as long as I'm appealing it, they can't turn around and go after a Jason Rantz or an Ari Hoffman or a Brandy Cruz or a Glenn Morgan and say, you're getting too politically active. You're getting too active in our system. We need to shut this person down. I want to make sure that they break their pick on me so that they never are able to do the same thing to anybody else ever again.
There you go. Again, timdefense.com. Tim Eyman, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Hey, really appreciate it, Jason. Have a great day, buddy.
You as well. You're listening to The Jason Rantz Show on Seattle Red 770 AM, online at seattlered.com.